So when I said I wanted to do more creative type content in that Fuecoco video, I didn't think I would just be making a sequel of said video, especially only a few months after. But, you know, that's just how it goes, and with Scarlet and Violet being so damn interesting looking, my Pokemon excitement is finally back after so many years. And now these new ideas for potential Pokemon are swirling around in my head like crazy. And when something is stuck in my head like this, I gotta get it out before it rots. So, here's another video about potential Pokemon evolutions. Also, potential spoilers for Scarlet and Violet, since the idea for 2 of these came from leaks. And if you want to stay completely spoiler free, then you probably should skip this video. At least for now. If you want to check it out later, do whatever, I'm not your dad. Not saying I'll nail it on the head or anything, but from what I've heard, Scarlet and Violet are going to do some pretty damn cool stuff. So I'd hate to ruin the surprise for you here. Also, the next video like this will be something else. I'm not going to promise anything. I'm just putting this here to be a potential barrier to myself in the future. Even though if I want something bad enough, I'll ignore any barrier. Yeah, I'm kind of a bitch like that, and that makes me my own worst enemy. So, first off of the two... Did I really just call myself a bitch not 2 minutes into... Bitch. So, first off is the first of the 2 spoilers. A Neo version of Salamence. Now, if you're unaware of the leaks for Scarlet and Violet, one of the most interesting things that's possibly coming to the new games is past and future versions of Pokemon. And I believe the fans have dubbed these Neo and Proto versions, though that may have come from the leaks as well. One of the leaked Neo versions is a version of Salamence, and when I heard this, I had the perfect idea for a spacefaring Salamence that's capable of incredible speed and doesn't need its old wings anymore. Oh, and don't worry, I'm not going to subject you all to my awful drawings like last time. Except for when I need to explain something in more detail. This time around, I've decided to do something a little different, but before we get to that, let's delve into the lore behind this new Salamence. In the distant future, technology has made flight an absolute breeze for anybody and everybody who wants to fly. It's as simple as putting on a special suit or just riding around in a flying car. And with this new age of constant air travel that everyone uses daily, Bagon's dream of flying through the air has lost a lot of meaning for it, as all the skies are filled with people and the air is not as free as it was for the Salamence of the past. Scientists noticed a drastic decline in Shelgon evolution habits, as there really wasn't much reason to strive for that freeing feeling anymore. Until an odd incident came about during a meteor shower. During said event, all air travel was prohibited as the meteors could damage anything in the sky. As the meteors flew and hit the earth with such high speed, a lone Shelgon was seen trying to imitate the meteors, as it longed for how fast they flew and how they scared off all the people. The Shelgon, like its ancestors of our modern day, threw itself off a cliff to try and match the meteor's speed and try to take flight of its own. The scientists believed this to be an interesting behavior from such a stagnant species, but they weren't prepared for what happened next. As Shelgon's heavy body plummeted toward the earth below, a stray meteorite with an odd glow about it struck the Shelgon right before it hit the ground. A 1 in a billion chance that caused the chain reaction of a lifetime. Shelgon's shell destroyed the meteor, but its glowing bits surrounded Shelgon as it plummeted, reacting to the Pokemon's strong heart, desperate for its dream. The scientists expected to see the Pokemon hit the ground with a loud boom, but instead saw a flash of light and could hear a small humming noise. Neo Salamence, the Comet Pokemon, a Dragon Fairy type whose body is of similar stature to Shelgon, except with a Salamence-like head and a tail, and with a floating ring that orbits the Pokemon. With its abilities pretty obviously being Levitate and Speed Boost, this new form of Salamence can fly through the ever-expansiveness of space, where it's free to soar to its heart's content. It floats around with its ring till it's ready to blast off, where it will then retract its head and fling itself using the ring like a slingshot, to shoot itself at such incredible speed that even potentially come close to light speed. Its body resembles a comet after its shot as it leaves its tail flowing in the solar winds. After this amazing event, scientists made note of the meteor that brought on this evolution, and made sure to collect samples of any similar meteorites they found. And with some time and experimentation, they made it possible for all Shelgon to undergo this evolution. allowing it to have its dream come true once again in an age that made it impossible. Yeah, I decided to make gen-appropriate sprites this time instead of using my drawings, as I feel like they're just a more interesting visual, and I want to change things up every once in a while. Though, as you just saw, I will use my drawings to help better explain some elements of the evolution. Anyways, Neo Salamence is based on a few things. The color scheme is based on Salamence's original color scheme in Ruby and Sapphire. That was a lot more purple and orange instead of the blue and red we're used to today. The idea for using the ring as a slingshot came from a few places, including the launch in Sling Stars from Mario Galaxy, and the Jedi ships in Star Wars that kind of docked in those rings that allowed them to go into light speed. Those things are just cool. The more sleek and overall tic-tac kind of look came from a declassified UFO that's been seen around the California coast. It reportedly goes really, really fast. And finally, the idea of it floating and have a flowing tail came from Mega Salamence, along with it kind of using its shell to hold its little feet. Now, the typing may seem odd, and I can definitely hear some saying that Steel or even Ice would have been more appropriate for a meteor or comet-themed Pokemon than Fairy is, and you're not necessarily wrong. However, I decided on Fairy for a few reasons. One is that I noticed everybody was adding Steel to their Neo Pokemon ideas, and I just thought that was kind of boring. I mean, I get why they would add that typing, but having every Pokemon in the future being a cybernetic Steel type, that just was kind of boring to me. And Ice is a nice idea. You know, Sid's comments are made of a lot of ice, but I genuinely feel like Fairy is the best choice since Fairy is the space type. I mean, we act like it isn't, but it kind of always has been, as it has a lot of ties to celestial bodies, namely the moon for a lot of its moves and its mascot, the Clefairy line, which literally hails from the moon. I know there are a lot of alien Pokemon without the Fairy type, but still, Fairy has always filled the role of a space or light type for me. And I really can't think of a better type to gain from a glowing meteor that allows you to float on a glowing ring in outer space than Fairy. Speaking of the ring, that's where the signature move comes in. Now, Pokemon has had plenty of meteor-themed moves with different typings over the years, so I'm going to add on to that with Meteor Slash. Or Comet Slash, if you prefer. It's basically a Fairy-type Night Slash with a decent base power and a high critical hit chance. Then finally, for the shiny form, I decided to go with the gold and teal color scheme, as it just reminded me of a shooting star, and I can't think of a more perfect color scheme for a Salamence to twinkle onto the battlefield with. Ha! See that twinkle? I told you it was space-themed! Next up is the second of the two spoilers. A proto-version of Tyranitar, one that was only ever around in ancient times. Long ago in the distant past, the world was a lot more brutal. Yes, even all the conflicts between the weather gods of Hoenn, the ideological civil war of Unova, and the mass graveyard that was Kalos were nothing compared to the true brutality of the ancient Pokemon world. Even species like Gyarados, a monster that could wipe out a whole village in seconds, wouldn't have been anywhere near the top of the ancient world's food chain. Though even in the brutal past, some things are funnily enough the same as our pleasant present day. The Larvitar line is very similar to how it used to be in the past, as having your main food source be the dirt under your feet will always ensure that the line will remain well fed, even if the rest of the world is hungry. In this ancient world, Larvitar evolves right into Pupitar as it still does to this day. However, the next evolution in this line is quite a bit different than what you're probably used to. Proto-Tyranitar, the Sandmouth Pokemon, is a different beast entirely to its modern day counterpart. Standing on 4 legs and being about double the size of your modern day Tyranitar, these beasts were the absolute rulers of any sandy or mountainous environment. They hid in the sand as a way to avoid stronger opponents or to surprise them from behind. It was said that they could swim through solid rock like it was water, due to a high-pitched roar that would shoot out of their massive throats, and would liquefy any surrounding rock or sand. Their throats had these massive gills that not only held onto days worth of oxygen for the creature, but boatloads of sand as well. Sand was always pouring out of any crevice, gill, or hole on the creature, ensuring it was in its element if it ever needed to fight. Proto-Tyranitar is a ground dark type with the abilities Sandstream and Unnerve. Its color scheme is based off shiny Tyranitar, as I find the tan to be a perfect color to blend into sand with, and I'm always a sucker for a nice purple. The shiny form is black and green, and to be honest, I made this one just by searching through the colors and it just happened to be the first one I stopped on. I can try and make up something like it's based on black sand and radiation, but really those two colors and purple are my favorite, and this shit just really goes hard, to be honest. It also kind of reminds me of nuclear Pokemon in Uranium. And there went all my chances of Nintendo sending me a review code. Whatever. Nuclear Pokemon are stupid cool, especially since they're all black and green, like my two favorite colors. Proto-Tyranitar is based on a few things, with the most obvious being Kamada-kun, or the fan-favorite second form of Shin Godzilla. Although I've never seen the film myself, I, like many others, fell in love with this dopey-looking Protozilla, with his googly eyes and his huge gills making him look so cute before all the radioactive blood pukes out of his gills. Which is kinda cool in a gross, horrifying way. It's kinda cool. We all know that Tyranitar bases quite a bit of his design on the King of Kaijus, so of course I had to take elements from Godzilla when making this design. And having it being based on Kamada-kun was just too perfect of an opportunity to pass up. Though I did add some more whale shark to the face to really fit with the whole sand liquefying roar thing, which is an idea I actually got from the Crate Dragon in Star Wars. Yeah, didn't plan on making these two designs have Star Wars elements, but I guess it's just how it goes, and besides, Tyranitar is known for eating whole mountains, so having them once being able to liquefy one and then store it inside its body for battle, that's just a really cool idea. Proto-Tyranitar also takes some elements from Mega Tyranitar, including the larger spikes and larger holes on its body. Now, the idea for its typing came from pretty much just flipping Tyranitar's type around. Larvitar and Pupitar are rock and ground types, but they drop the ground type for dark when Tyranitar comes around. So having it swap the rock for ground is just a fun idea, plus it fits better for the more sand-dwelling creature. Of course comes the question of why it changes to what we know as Tyranitar in the present day. Basically, an ice age brought on the rise of ice types like Sneasel and Weavile, and they would come to inhabit areas where Tyranitar dwell like Mount Silver. And of course, being ground dark, Proto-Tyranitar would be at a heavy disadvantage in this time period, while its pre-evolutions would remain relatively unaffected. So, over time, Pupitar evolved into a more sleeker, rock-type form that was much more capable with head-to-head battles while still keeping its sand-controlling abilities, just without it having so much as to spill out of its body holes. And since they don't live under sand like they used to, the modern-day Tyranitar has actually lost the gills needed to breathe in sand. By the way, did you guys know that Sandstorm only gives a stat boost to rock types? I always thought it was steel, ground, and rock types. I mean, all three of them are already immune, and ground should really be more sand-based than rock. And why a special defense boost? I always thought it was evasion. You know what? Never mind, let's just continue. Proto-Tyranitar's signature move is called Sand Whale. It's pretty much just a ground-type hyper voice with a chance of lowering the opponent's accuracy like Sand Attack. A powerful move for a powerful monster. I am really proud of this sprite. I'm a beginner at sprite-based stuff, and I know the ones in this video are kind of ass, but this one is just perfect to me. I love it, though maybe I could have worked on the gills a little more. Thanks to Substitute for the tutorial. Check out that channel for a bunch of cool Fakemon stuff, including his own fan game that's looking really interesting. And there goes the rest of my chances for getting free stuff from Nintendo. Whatever. What Pokemon fan hasn't at least thought about making a fan game? Even if those dinosaurs would really want you not to. And speaking of fan-made content, have any of you ever heard of a ROM hack called Altered Platinum? It's essentially a ROM hack of a ROM hack, with the creator of Altered getting permission from the creator of Renegade Platinum to make their fan game based on the groundwork changes Renegade made to regular Platinum. Confusing maybe, but it's been one hell of a ROM hack that I've been enjoying off and on again lately, and one of the biggest sources of my enjoyment is the brand new Sinnohan forms, with my absolute favorite being the Sinnohan Poochyena line. I've always wanted a light side Poochyena line to counteract the dark side Galarian Zigzagoon line, since Mightyena has been one of my personal favorite Pokemon for I guess a pretty long time, just about my entire Pokemon career. So when I saw the Sinnohan line, it was a done deal. If this was an official Pokemon, it'd probably be my new favorite. The design and typings are so cool, I love the new lore behind it, I just love this Fakemon. But it's missing one detail. A detail that I won't blame the creator for not having, as it would be completely unreasonable for what the hack was trying to accomplish. And as someone with experience trying to hack Gen 4, I know it's a real pain. But the one thing this new Mightyena needs is an evolution to match up against Obstagoon. So, I made one. Hysteriana is a Psychic and Fairy type and is known as the Gut Buster Pokemon. Although it has a very intimidating appearance, its personality is actually very fun-loving. It's known to make jokes and make others laugh, even to its own detriment, such as making physical comedy of itself running into objects, or by laughing so hysterically, even before you can get the whole joke out. Yeah, this Pokemon is banned from comedy clubs, though what really made this Pokemon hugely popular in Sinnoh is their loyalty and kind-hearted nature. There is no Pokemon in the world more loving than a Hysteriana, and it is actually considered to be the top breed of all service Pokemon. Hysteriana is commonly seen at places for or at the side of those who aren't doing too great, making them very popular at hospitals, homes, or shelters for those who are very vulnerable, especially for the elderly or children who suffer from certain conditions. Laughter is the best medicine is not just a saying when it comes to this Pokemon, as its laugh is literally infectious, as it will bring up the mood of everybody around it. Though this doesn't always work, meaning Hysteriana will try and do anything to bring a smile to their owners, even if it means hurting themselves. Hysteriana can only work at certain places for a limited time before they're forced to retire for their own sakes, as even the most trained don't take loss very well. I love Hoenn Mightyena, but it is a shame that it doesn't have any of the more unique qualities of hyenas incorporated into its design, especially their laughter. After 1,000 plus Pokemon, not one is a laughing hyena. Like, come on man, that's just so easy. Well, as soon as I thought of my own idea for a light-side Poochyena, I knew it had to laugh. And although Sinnoh and Poochyena aren't really the laughing type, they and Sinnoh and Mightyena are very empathic, and I love that aspect of their design. It's one of the reasons why I love them so much. So, for the evolution, I pretty much took Altered Platinum Mightyena and my laughing light-side Mightyena, and I blended them into one hysterical evolution. Hysteria's design takes a lot from jesters, as their main role is to entertain while giving fair critique to their masters, protecting those around them by voicing their concerns. Hysteriana's signature move is called Slapstick. It involves Hysteriana starting to attack the opponent before tripping itself up and rolling into them in a comedic fashion. It's not a very powerful move, but the opponent is left confused afterwards. The shiny version of Hysteriana is just Sinnoh and Poochyena and Mightyena's shiny, which I think looks really good. At first I thought the shiny was trying to mimic the monotone mime look, but upon further inspection it is more of a light purple. I kind of wanted to do something with the moon shape marking on Mightyena for Hysteriana's design. Maybe do something with the phases of the moon and have them on Hysteriana as face paint or on the little orbs on its ears and nose. But I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be a moon shape. And besides, if I would have done that, it might have complicated the design, which, if you couldn't tell, I clearly had a lot of trouble trying to emulate Gen 4 sprites. So maybe it's for the best I didn't add that aspect. It could have looked cool though, and it would have added to my argument of Fairy being the space type, which it absolutely is. The final evolution for today's video is one that was actually going to be in the original Red and Green way back when, and that was an evolution for Raichu. A few years back, a huge leak came out showing that there was a scrapped evolution for the best rat boy of all time, Raichu. Yeah, that's right, we rep Raichu in this house. Ever since I watched Pika vs. Goliath as a kid, I was a Raichu stan. I love the way he pinned that little shit to a rock with his cool as hell tail, and then proceeded to hit him with a point blank hyper beam that hospitalized that little puke. That's cool as shit. Plus, me and Raichu were both unpopular unlike our younger siblings. But hey, that hasn't stopped my late bloomer ass from hitting my stride nowadays, and now I gotta rep my brother in arms. Wait, what was I talking about? Gorochu, the scrapped evolution of Raichu. According to Game Freak, there wasn't any real reason he was cut, he just kinda was, and I think that's too bad. Now, I've seen many designs for Big Hoss online for quite a while now, and I love just about everyone I've seen, especially this one with the cool ears. And so, now I've decided to throw my hat into the ring and give my idea for what this scrapped rat could have looked like. In the Kanto region, there is a lot of Pokemon that could be considered big eaters. The four to come to mind are Munchlax and Snorlax, and their rivals in gluttony, Lickitung and Licky. The two species have been known to fight over food quite a bit, leading the other Pokemon and even the other big eaters to come along and scoop up all the food while they battle. And no Pokemon is more notorious for this than Gorochu. Gorochu, the Thunderbelly Pokemon, an electric dark type who's known to be a real glutton. Gorochu is a very powerful Pokemon as it's able to hold off anyone who would get in front of it and its food, even all four of the other big eaters at once at times. Gorochu is a strange evolution as it's a very different beast from its pre-evolutions. Where Pichu, Pikachu, and Raichu are very kind creatures perfect for any trainer to have as a partner, Gorochu on the other hand can be very mean or just plain ambivalent creatures. They are even known to butt heads with their pre-evolutions as if they were completely different species of Pokemon. Gorochu is even known to bully other Pokemon out of their territories for no other reason than the food there looks a little bit more tastier, or if the environment just looks a slight bit more comfier. It tends to get into conflict with Electivire and even Zapdos over territories, though one has never been known to ever have defeated a Zapdos in the wild. There are some positives to having a Gorochu around, however, as once they claim a territory as their own, they'll fight tooth and tail to protect it. In the old days, rich households would even lure Gorochu to their estate with tasty food and a comfy bed, and have Gorochu act as a one-rat security system, shocking away any intruders. However, if the Gorochu wasn't properly fed, it would then turn on the estate and zap the whole area to ash. Gorochu aren't evil, however, as it will gladly share its food with any hungry Pokemon or even humans in the areas they watch over. However, in exchange, it expects you to give a bite of your food back if it's ever curious about what you're eating. I guess those aren't fully positives, and the downside of this Pokemon have left most trainers to just stick with Pichu, Pikachu, and Raichu. Though, for those who actually do have a Gorochu on your team, you'll never find a more faithful and powerful companion. As long as you don't mind footing the bill. The design for Gorochu is probably the one which evolved the most out of all four of these. Now, I had the basics of the design pretty locked in from the start. It had to be fat, mean, and powerful. The big bad boss of whatever place it likes to hang around in. And I also wanted it to have 4 tails. At first the idea would have been that the top 2 tails would have been shaped like Pikachu's tail at the end, and they'd have gashes cut out of them to form a sort of mask for Gorochu to scare away lesser opponents, while the bottom 2 would be shaped like Raichu's tail and would be used to prop itself up and make itself look taller, also for intimidation. However, I got less and less fond of these 2 ideas as I went on, and I ended up making it so the bottom 2 tails actually form a cloud for it to float around in. And then for the mask, I was adamant on it staying till I got to the spriting process, where I found it to be really hard to add it in, and ultimately I decided that that aspect was just too much. I mean, for one, Gorochu already has a pretty mean mug with that underbite and his horn-like ears, not to mention the actual little horns he has, but I still wanted to keep the whole 4-tail thing, so I decided to have them sprout thunder drums when held together behind Gorochu. I mean, let's be honest, he already looks like Raijin, the Japanese thunder god, who's already an aspect of Raichu's design, so why not just go fully into it? And I think it suits the big guy pretty well. Though if we back up to the fangs for a little bit, I think this is where we see a gender difference. As Pikachu and Raichu only had a minor part of their tail be different between the genders, I feel like Gorochu would retain that idea of having different tail marks, but have the additional detail of the fangs being an underbite for the males and have them be an overbite for the females. Gorochu's color scheme would be mostly white with a dark muddy red being the color you'd see on his stripes and other places throughout the body. His shiny form was a bit tricky to come up with, as the Raichu line already has a gimmick where the shinies are supposed to match the next stage of evolution. But I guess Raichu's shiny is a little similar to Gorochu's red. About as similar as Pikachu's shiny is to Raichu, but don't get me started on that. But I went ahead and made Gorochu's shiny a Pichu color scheme to round out the theme, though I also made a blue one that contrasts the red a lot, and at this point I might as well make a green one to cover all my Gen 1 bases. Gorochu's abilities are Levitate, Huge Power, or Lightning Rod, and his signature move is Bolt Tackle like the rest of his line. Nah, not that boring. Gorochu's actual signature move is called Rumbling Crash, basically an electric-typed explosion. Gorochu calls on an immense amount of electricity and uses it to slam his drums like crazy. Thunder and lightning roll out of its clouds, drums, and cheeks. People who have heard this move go off say that it sounds like a percussion band going wild before a freight train level boom goes off, frying everything in a mile radius. Except ground types, of course, and causing the monster Pokemon to pass out in exhaustion. And that's the monsterable Gorochu. Oh, what about Alolan Raichu, you ask? Oh, he evolves too, but the Alolan version is a lot more laid back, as he's seen with sunglasses and a Hawaiian shirt on, laying in his inner tube style tail sunbathing the day away, while snatching pancakes and malasada from passerbys as they try to enjoy their day. Also, Gorochu is the only Chew that Mimikyu likes. And those are my ideas for 2 potential, 1 scrapped, and 1 Fakemon evolutions. I hope you enjoyed listening to my ideas, and I hope staring at these sprites was easier to stomach than my garbage drawing skills. I don't think these sprites are too bad for my first time really trying to make sprites. I'm especially proud of Proto Tyranitar, as I feel like it looks like it's just right out of gold and silver, though I admit it still needs some more work done on it. The Salamence was a fairly simple Photoshop job, so I won't pat myself on the back for that one. And these 2 are extremely rough. I think they turned out okay, especially since Gen 1 is full of, awkward looking sprites. So Gorochu is passable for me, but poor Hysteriana. If I do any more sprite work in the Gen 4 style, I'll have to give myself more time to really work out the kinks. I say knowing full well that this video is super late. Like, I wanted this out in September. It is not September anymore. Where was I? Oh, right. Sorry. Thank you all for watching, and if you have any of your own ideas for an evolution for anything, whether it be past, future, or whatever, let me know in the comments, as I find this to be a really interesting topic, and I'd love to hear more people's ideas. And here's hoping that Scarlet and Violet shake up the series out of its weird little funk it's been in for about a decade. Look man, I'll defend some of these games, but even the ones I really like have some weird issues that are just odd to see out of the world's largest franchise. Not going any further than that, I'll literally be here all day, but everything from Scarlet and Violet looks really exciting, and if the leaks are to be believed, you're going to be able to do some wild stuff not seen in any other Pokemon game. Also, thank you to whoever was listening to my silent prayer for over a decade to not just bring back Sawsbuck, but his awesome seasonal form mechanic. That shit is just cool, and it's good to see him back in his prime after rotting away on the 3DS's lack of creativity. You literally have a fall, winter, summer, and spring themed area, Kalos. Why the fuck did you kneecap my man like that?
Should have taken the shot, fat ass.